obfuscation of the currency is multiplying costs upon all of us, so we have to charge certain prices. Yes, there are people that take advantage of this trend. Yes, there are. But the trend has to exist nonetheless for us merely to keep our head above water. And it results of an obfuscation of the currency, which if we eradicated it, we would never suffer increasing costs of anything. A $35,000 home built in 1963 with a 100-year lifespan would cost you $17 a month across its lifespan. Who couldn't afford a house? And I mean, we're talking custom-built colonial home, redwood siding, brick, nutty pine, natural finished interior over a third of the house, beam ceilings everywhere. You know, the finest craftsmanship. What would prevent us from owning a house if we just adopted mathematically perfected economy? So this mandate is many things. It's a very complex document, and in a way, it's even though I'm in intimate contact with it, it's very difficult to summarize it. To give you just a few of its parts, probably in the simplest terms, it's a strategy by which we will absolutely prevail in the issues here. That is, it evolves from 43 years of understanding and interaction and pleadings with government and whatnot. It's a resolution which is the most undefeatable strategy conceivable. That is, it's an armament that allows everyone to go to court, to go to the bank, to pay their debt, to go to the court to defend their action, and to defend an action which is different than this court action which we just heard about in South Africa. We aren't claiming to repay our debts only to the banking system. We're claiming to resolve that because it's just a bunch of crap. It's a falsified debt. We're restoring our promissory obligation to its rightful state by refinancing all of our debts under mathematically perfected economy, which amounts to simply this: counting all prior payments of interest instead toward principal, which itself will resolve most of the world's debt. It will go away. All of us will be approximately 12 times further along in servicing any debt because, in general, our $100,000 home with a 100-year lifespan would cost us $1,000 per year under mathematically perfected economy, or $83.33 per month. Whereas under the present system, as it exists pretty much across the world in a general way, the cost would be $1,000 per month, 12 times as much. So not only do we resolve most of our debt, because most of the debt has been paid many times over even, we immediately make ourselves approximately 12 times as solvent overall, and we make people 12 times further ahead on their, say, defaulted mortgages, for instance. So instead of being behind on your mortgage payments, you're in fact 12 times ahead just for adopting mathematically perfected economy, which isn't some ruse or guise or loophole itself. It's a means, it's a singular means of resolving all of the issues before us. So I've been working on the final drafts of the mandates for the last few years. It's a document that's been available online for 5 years and plus, and has had substantial input, which hasn't affected it a whole lot. It all sort of falls upon me well, in effect, it amounts to a huge outlining issue and structural issue of getting all this into the fewest words, and still it's one of the largest documents that's ever been authored into prospective law. It has the current draft of this summary. I might read it and maybe we'll comment on this to answer this question. This indispensable declaration of law by the people proves irrefutably that the present global monetary failure is both terminal and perpetrated by intentional abuse of power. Given irrefutable arguments, no purportedly representative government in the world can reasonably count on any furtherance of authority to prevail over us, for the perpetrators are few, we are many, and every rightful power and leverage are inherently on our side. We therefore establish rights, even as sovereign individuals, to protect ourselves against every further potential abuse of power, however potentially condoned by an apathetic or otherwise offending majority. Those who wish to persist in the imposed system's falsified debts are even compelled to pay them. That is, in order to dissolve any resistance to this mandate, we're claiming the damages against us, even as sovereign individuals. I myself am claiming this by myself, if necessary. In necessarily resolving the present obfuscation of our currency otherwise, our determination necessarily empowers each of us to permanently fulfill entire balances of payment against falsified debts which have arisen without lawful consideration from a purported banking system which merely publishes evidence of our promissory obligations to each other. We thus empower ourselves to do so by claiming a like authority to issue irredeemable promises to pay. This equilateral claim is exercised only to temporarily avert terminal circulatory deflation under their purposed obfuscation of our promissory obligations. Until mathematically perfected economy is established by a deadline of December 21st, 2012. To resolve the resultant injustices, the prescribed transition refinances all prior debt, counting all prior payments of interest instead toward principal, and imposing obligatory schedules of payment at rates of consumption or depreciation of the related property. This alone justifies an even immediate resolution of most of the world's falsified debt, otherwise generally reducing costs of servicing remaining debt some 12-fold, and likewise arresting a global foreclosure crisis by likewise reducing costs of servicing remaining debt some 12-fold. Excuse me, I misread that. By likewise putting remaining promissory obligations some generally 12 times ahead of usual existent rates of payment. As a consequence of no more than restoring our rights to issue unexploited promissory obligations, then, a $100,000 home with a 100-year lifespan, for instance, would be paid for at an overall rate which equates to $1,000 per year or $83.33 per month. In dissolving many of the means by which representation has been subverted across the world, our mandate further prescribes the form, extents, and qualifications of all law and government activity, retroactively subjecting all instruments of government to perpetual public refinement and affirmation. Ultimately, we deny any government any authority, even to debate this establishment of law by the people, and to do so, we make their every delay, further persistence in these crimes against us, or further evasion, formal crimes of treason. Should any government fail to meet our deadline, they are declared null and void, as 2 makes them subject to prosecution. So this is just the summary of a document which is approximately 30,000 words. It's basic. It has 10 sections. I could read the titles of each and maybe expand a little bit on each of them. Its first section is Declaration of Necessity, Authority, and Means. Facts of Prevailing Authority. These establish our authority to do this. After all, the object of every representative government in the world is to deliver representation, and we're declaring what that is. The title of the second section is Indispensable Term, Scope, and Verification of Lawful Authority. Our first section, I should probably back up and say, establishes in 4 subsections a necessity and authority or facts of a global denial of representation. Its second subsection is means of absolute consensual representation and facts of prevailing authority. It establishes, that section establishes our authority to do this. The third subsection is facts of the severest crimes against the people in an intentional obfuscation of the currency, perpetrated by evasion of a fact of singular solution to the categoric faults of the present pretended economy. So this section proves the crimes against us and their singular solution. A fourth subsection is vital extension of means to absolute consensual representation. We prove in the prior section that how these crimes are committed against us, there is one and one only means of sealing all of the avenues for perpetrating those crimes. And so we are tying the hands of government as never before in what I'm calling absolute consensual representation. Nothing but nothing but nothing. No crime of government can be committed against us without paying the extreme crimes for it, and without even an individual having an ability to invalidate the breaches of power of government. So these are very important developments. Then back into our third major subsection then, it's about verifiable elections. So its title is Confirmability of Election Processes, Responsibility for Consequences Thereof, Disposition of Oaths of Office, and of Civil or Legal Representation. Fourth section is titled Enforceability in Respect to Elections, Expulsion, and Crimes of Office. We basically make any of these crimes treason. Banking is treason. Banking is declared and proven treason by this document. A fifth section's title is Reconstitution of Law. We're requiring all prior bodies of law to be subject to public assent, and processes which allow the public itself to perfect all prior law and exercise of government. A sixth section is titled Judicial Obligation, which is 2 subsections, one of which is titled Incontrovertible Prevalence of the Constitution. In other words, that this is the prevailing body of law. Second is unlawful denial of rights guaranteed by the Constitution, binding nature of legal precedents. So we subject judicial processes to further processes. A further subsection, one of the largest parts of the document,